Thank you so much. I cannot tell you all how many times I've said to someone, I consider myself as a musician first before anything else. I tend to hear at times, surely, Michael, there's something that more accurately represents you as a human being than music. What about your faith or spirituality? What about your cultural or social identities as a dual citizen between the United States and Honduras? I got to be honest, I think my favorite one is, wait a second, aren't you a business major? Yes, absolutely. All of these things play an active role in who I am as a person and have significantly shaped my identity throughout my life. However, music rises above and beyond them. I like to think I'm a musician when I do big things like lead others. I'm definitely a musician speaking here to you all tonight. I like to think I'm a musician when I think and dream, but most importantly, I'm a musician when I make decisions about how I want to live my life. See, I have learned a ton of things from music. I've learned countless lessons, and I'm going to be talking to you tonight about what being a musician has taught me and how music has helped me serve others so that you too may learn how to live through music. Now, before I do that, it's really important for me to give you a little context about how music became such a large part of me. I come from a relatively musical family, and I say relatively because none of them pursued actual careers in music. However, it has always fulfilled them and allowed them to serve others with their musical talents. My father is an educator and a composer who has a strong passion for guitar and vocals. My mother is a dentist who has been singing as a soprano with the Christian worship group Amor y Fe for over 30 years. My sister is a doctor and a soulful singer who commands the room every single time she gets on stage. Lastly, my brother, Eric, was the crazy diamond of the family that didn't get to shine as long as he should have. I lost my brother in October of 2013 to a homicide in Dale, Minnesota. I was living in Honduras at the time, and I have a very particular memory of the moments prior to receiving the news. I was riding in the car with my dad, listening to one song on repeat in my headphones. That song was The Message by Dr. Dre. Now, this is the last track on Dre's Chronic 2001 album, and it is a dedication to his older half-brother, Tyree, whom he lost to a tragic homicide during his touring of Straight Outta Compton. Now, I couldn't tell you for the life of me why I was listening to this particular song on repeat, but it just felt like the universe was trying to speak to me. So I rapped along with Dre's pain-filled message to God, not realizing that the music was preparing me for what was to become the most difficult moment of my entire life. Less than an hour later, my dad broke the news to me about what had happened. And I'll tell you, I felt so numb to everything and everyone around me, even my own family members. I drifted so far away from my spirituality, resenting God and the universe because of what had happened. However, in these moments of desolation, I reminisce to all of the years when my brother would expose me to all kinds of music. Chris Brown to 3 Days Grace, Radiohead to Chopin, Pink Floyd to Hank Mobley. I pictured all of the nights where he would stay up super late, making beats and writing rhymes past the margin, which I quickly adopted as a way of life too. I spent most of my adolescence writing raps with my brother, and I attribute these moments as the beginning of my musical journey. Fast forward to 2014, 1 year after the death of my brother, something pushed me to pick up his old electric guitar. I blew the dust off, and with the same strings he had last played with, I began to make music. Now, one song became two became four. I began to practice and improvise for hours on end, and all of a sudden, life started to get just a little bit better every day. I started to feel something again through those blue notes that helped me express every word and emotion that I had trapped inside. And I couldn't believe that it was right in front of me the entire time. Just like that, my family and social relationships started to improve. I felt more in touch with the universe than I ever had before because my playing became my praying. Now, that was the moment that I knew that there was no going back from that musical space. That was the moment that I knew that I was meant to be a musician. Now, I have learned countless lessons from being a musician, and when thinking about how to categorize these lessons in the seemingly infinite nature of music, well, I decided to turn to the music itself. There are 3 fundamental elements of music that embody the essence of humanity and life, no matter where you are or who you come from. These elements are rhythm, harmony, and melody. Let's begin. The most important of these elements is rhythm because of its relationship with time. Now, the average adult has a resting heart rate of about 60 to 100 beats per minute, and John Coltrane recorded giant steps at a ridiculous 300 beats per minute. Now, that sounds like an all-out panic attack to me. Our heart naturally uses rhythm to regulate the blood flow in our bodies, and this is a perfect example of an internal rhythm. An internal rhythm is something that happens within us that tells us how we evolve and interact with time. Another notable example is how we adopt certain beliefs and stances throughout our lives, signaling a fluctuation in spiritual or social rhythms. Now, missing a rhythm in rehearsal is detrimental not only to those around you, but also to yourself. And this is something very similar to what we experience when we lack a fundamental level of self-awareness regarding our physical and our mental states. If we don't pay attention to our body's rhythms, we are at risk of unhealthy lifestyles and even missing key information that could save our lives about our bodies. If we miss our mental rhythms, we are at risk of unhappy lifestyles, filled with cognitive dissonance or a lack of fulfillment and purpose. Now, being graceful and attentive to these very rhythms is step one to internalizing them to improve our overall quality of life. Now, let me redirect your attention to the other side of this analogy. Let's say I were to get up on the bandstand on stage for a show one night and decide, you know what, I'm not going to pay attention to anything that's happening around me. You can only imagine what kind of fever dream that would sound like. And that's because my bandmates, the audience, and the music itself all have something to say to me, and I have to know how to listen and use it to create something actually worth listening to. Now, this brings us to external rhythms. External rhythms are those that happen outside of us, and they serve as steadfast reminders to listen with intent and to keep up. Some of those external rhythms are ones we encounter on the day-to-day, such as taking 16-plus credits as a college student or working a 9-to-5 job. If we choose to go a little deeper, we can analyze the rhythms of our relationships, of our careers, and of our communities, which are constantly requiring our attention and engagement. Now, rhythm has taught me that it doesn't matter how many notes you play or how fast you can play them. If it's not in time, it's dead. And that is why when we check to see if someone is still alive, we check their pulse to see if their heart is still beating in time. Now, the second element I'd like to talk to you about is harmony because of its relationship with decision-making and community building. Now, being a jazz musician is loads of fun. When I'm not losing my mind trying to explain that the elevator music that people recognize as jazz is really only the tip of the literal musical iceberg, and jazz is a form of Black American music which has brought the most important and relevant developments to all things music since the beginning of its inception, I am calmly explaining why it is that jazz music doesn't necessarily have wrong notes per se, but instead poor decisions. This is because of harmony and the harmonic freedoms that the music allows for. Now, many modern jazz theorists have boiled it down to this. You can basically play anything as long as you can resolve it or intentionally bring your musical idea within reach of its home key. Now, this requires you to know where you want to go and to make a decision about how you're going to get there while you are playing. Now, for anybody that knows me, I can barely order food at a drive-thru, let alone seek to master that level of intentionality and purpose. Now, it is for this very reason that I love improvisation so much, because it has taught me that if I want to play something that actually matters, I have to play with purpose. If we want to say something that actually matters, we have to speak with purpose. It has taught me that to ask questions like, am I playing here just to play, just to make noise? Or am I doing or saying something just because I can? As we seek to level up the intentionality in our own lives, asking these types of questions can help push us towards a larger harmonic purpose. Now, speaking of purpose, we cannot talk about harmony without talking about chords. And see, the funny thing about chords is chords are surprisingly like people. There's so many different types with so many different functions, and they have families and relatives, and all chords have a purpose. See, sometimes these chords can turn the tables with the tensions that they create because they go against what the harmonic structure expects of them. However, when treated with intentionality, these chords can add tremendous value and take us places where you never would have even imagined to go to by yourself. Now, chords are like people, and it is a diverse array of people that ultimately contributes to harmonious living in our own society. Now, the way that we interact personally with that diversity tells us a lot about who we are, too. Whenever I hear talks about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I hear very similar ideas to those expressed in a well-written symphony or a beautiful jazz arrangement. It is the variety of skills, languages, ideas, and beliefs that allow us to contribute something of value to our communities, especially when there are tensions and explorations happening at the very same time. Now, my time exploring harmony has led me to the realization that only when we seek to understand the context and the background of the chords can we seek to understand the song as a whole. And I believe that this idea plays a huge role in our society. Only when we seek to understand the people in it can we truly understand the potential of our community and find the best way to serve it. Harmony has taught me that if I want to live a life that actually matters, I have to live a life of purpose. It has taught me to find good people and commit to serving them, because just like when an altered dominant chord resolves to the one chord, it makes you feel really good. Now, let's end with a melody. I want you all to think about your favorite songs. You know, the ones that make you want to move and dance and shout and scream, or that never fail to bring my stank face on, in my case. When I was writing this speech, I decided to walk down memory lane and revisit all of the music that I listened to throughout my musical development. The truly beautiful thing about this process is that not only did I get to flip through the songs and see the album arts and sing and play along, but I was also flooded with a range of emotions and memories. Each song and its melody brought me back to a moment in my life where that music was strangely relevant to me in a very unique way. I remembered all the thoughts and emotions and implications of those moments that are now ingrained forever into this music. Now, listening back to my favorite songs, I was reminded that those are the very moments that make up the melodies of our own lives. The one thing that music never fails to do is to bring us back to this present moment, with all the fear and stress and anxiety and love that may come with it. Music reminds us that we're human, that we're here right now, and that the world is at our fingertips. So I consider myself as a musician first, not just because I love to play and compose the music. I've adopted musicianship as a lifestyle because music embodies the essence of humanity with its three fundamental elements: rhythm, harmony, and melody. Now, the British writer Alan Watts once said, "We are the universe experiencing itself." And I have found very few things in life that match that experience better than developing a relationship with music. So, my call to you all tonight is to continue to develop your relationships with music. Because everyone in this hall and everyone watching from home already has one, and it's just waiting to be nurtured by you. Now, this could mean a more deep and curious listening, expanding the genres that you listen to. This can mean picking up or continuing to practice an instrument. Or this can mean finding the courage to write your own song. And I genuinely mean this when I say it. If you are having a hard time expanding that relationship with music, find a way to reach me. And I will guide you to the best of my capacity to do so. Because I have acknowledged and I have experienced the merits that it brings. I have learned discipline through practice. I have learned expression through composition and improvisation, and real-time connection through playing live and making music for others to absorb and to pass on. Now, I could keep you here for hours talking about the hundreds of lessons that I've learned and the ways that I've connected musicianship with my life. But now I encourage you to go out there and create your own. Thank you so much for being here.